Hi, ever wonder what it's like to work another profession or live in the underworld? Listen to unsuspecting riders give a 10 to 15 minute personal masterclass as I spontaneously interview them as they enter my taxi. I'm your host, Simon Rushton, and this is Taxi Chronicles. Morning. Yes, we're back with another episode, another rider. Today we've got a guy from all the way over the other side of the pond. His name's Bob. Yeah, and he's going to be telling us what it's like to be in the camera business. He says he's been in nearly every continent on the world doing his Hollywood camera stuff. So it's very interesting. I'm sure it's going to be a great episode. So here you are, Bob.
Hey.
Nice to have you here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Tell us, what made you want to get into the camera business, the film business?
Well, growing up, my dad, he grew up in Trinidad. He came over to the United States, and he ended up doing military as a reservist in the Army, and then he was a police officer in New York for about 10 years, retired around the same time he had me, and did private security ever since. There were a couple years where it's like he was gone a lot longer than usual, so I would, as I got older, I asked him, I was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you out of the country so much? And it ended up that one of his clients ended up being Tom Cruise. So I ended up wanting to go to the movies a lot more, see what it's all about. And then by the time I got to high school, I got to see my first set. It ended up being Oblivion. And
I love that film.
Yeah, great film.
Are you functional? What they say? Are you a functional or compatible or something? Effective unit? No, we're not. No.
Yeah.
I love that film, man. But go on. Finish your story. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. We ended up. I ended up meeting him for the first time there, and 2 years later, when I turned 18, he ended up giving me my first job. He gave me an internship.
Well, Tom Cruise?
Yeah.
He said, I want this guy on my set.
Yeah.
Shit.
So,
right, you can't go wrong from there.
Right?
All you have to do is, does he want two sugars or one in his coffee? It's true though, if he's recommended you, who's going to say no?
Right? I ended up holding a camera on my very first job. And I met my current supervisor on my second job, and I've been doing movies ever since. It's been 7 years now.
So you're a made man.
Yeah.
You're a made man in the Hollywood camera business. So your dad now, he was bodyguard to Tom Cruise?
Yeah.
Okay. So did he manage to save his life or something? Was it one of those kind of stories that he said, what do you want? And I said, can you help my son out?
It wasn't. I don't think it was as dramatic as all that. I feel like, he spent years, essentially being in service of him. So I think it was more so he just asked for a favor, and just out of respect, he just gave it.
Yeah, that's great. So you're set for life.
Hopefully.
Yeah. If Tom Cruise has any famous children, actors, that you're so on, it'll be a lineage going down, working hand in hand and stuff. That's good. So what have you learnt? You said you've been in this camera business 7 years. What have you learnt that you wish you knew when you started?
That's a tough one. There's a lot of things I wish I knew when I started. Every day is a new learning experience. We were just in Italy, back in October, and it's just I've always run action cameras to help cover all of the stunts for the behind the scenes. And there was just this one time, it was it was probably the most embarrassing moment probably of my career to date, where it's just there was a car that needed to be rigged with a camera, but we're as behind the scenes, we don't hear a lot of the information on set until the very last moment. So everything we do is last minute, how the Minutemen were in the American Revolution. they were just supposed to be able to snap to at a literal minute's notice.
When you say the Minutemen in the American Revolution, were they infanteers?
Yeah, they were like a volunteer militia, and they were trained.
So they weren't given the whole scope. They're just told, you need to be there and go and fight them now.
Yeah, essentially. Like, they're like the first line of defense just because they're the quickest to be ready. They don't need to know what's going on. They just need to be there. So it's kind of like that when you work the editorial press kit, or EPK.
Mm-hmm.
And I was rigging this car, and I couldn't get the tether around, so I started fiddling with all my stuff. I went in without a plan. Like, the only thing I ever wish I could do better is to be able to go into what I'm doing with a plan already set. Now, especially on a mission film, you can't really do that. Like, it's very, like...
Hush-hush.
It's very, not hush-hush, it's just touch and go. Like, it's very much a playground for creativity. Like, half the time, like, we plan the movie around the stunts. We don't write the story first.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
So, Hollywood, that explains Hollywood's... Because people say, yeah, a Hollywood film, we're going to have an explosion, then we're going to have a fight scene, then we're going to have 2 explosions, then we're going to have another fight scene, then we're going to have a kiss, then we're going to have another explosion. Yeah, go on, sorry, that's just me. Go on. Yeah, so you're saying you plan the script around, is it the script around the fight scenes?
Just not even around fight scenes, like just general stunts. I feel like Hollywood, like, especially for these movies, as long as I can remember, since like maybe the 4th one, Ghost Protocol, Mission Impossible, like that's when I realized that they pretty much like have all of the heads, all the big important guys, like whether it be Tom Cruise and the director and the stunt coordinator, they all sit in a room and they all talk to each other. So like, what do you guys want to do this movie? Like, what crazy thing do you want to do this movie? And they plan the rest of the movie around that.
Okay.
So for them, I feel like it's very much a playground.
That's a sales pitch, really, isn't it? It's like, we need to sell this movie with some new trailer, action-packed scene, like a fight on a train. No, it's James Bond, sorry. And stuff where people go, oh, I've got to see that movie.
Yeah, because
so it's a monetization.
Especially like, it's a big name in cinema. Like, when you think of cinema, one of the first movies that you're gonna think of since like the 90s is Mission Impossible. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's a name, it's a family, it's a household name at this point.
Yeah.
So it's like to figure out new ways of reinventing itself all the time, like, it's quite impressive to see just how it happens. Like, the process itself is frustrating, it can be, but it's well worth it when you see the magic that they actually pull off, whether it be in post or on set. Tom Cruise is like Jackie Chan. He's one of the only actors left who do their own stunts.
Oh, he does his own stunts?
Yeah, like he doesn't have a double. Like, when you saw him fall from that helicopter in the last movie, like, he really fell from a helicopter. Like,
he's good. He's good. I wouldn't want a double because I'd like to man up, but I'm thinking I'd need a double when it comes to the heights.
Right.
So wait, when he jumped through the window onto another building,
yeah, like,
he did that?
Yeah, he really did that.
I was like, listen, we're doing this once. You better get this shot and get it right.
What was it? Last movie? He like broke his ankle doing it?
Yeah.
Jumping from one building to another?
Bloody hell, man.
Yeah.
Shit. I tell you how to. When I go to movies now, I probably won't watch it on Netflix. I'll probably watch it in the cinema. Just I respect what the man's doing. Okay, so you spoke about what's it like working with stars. You spoke about.
It's very intense because like sometimes depending on the movie, depending on the actors that they hire, like everything that you've seen actors portrayed as on TV can be exactly how they're portrayed on TV, very full of themselves. Some of them can be very humble, but generally speaking, like working in behind the scenes, like having constant contact with them, you kind of, well, I mean, me personally, I always grew up an introvert, so like for me, it's like having to deal with that kind of energy, it can be a bit confrontational at times, but generally speaking, working with talent is nice, and until it gets to set, then it's very, very intense. Well, you have to be 100% your whole time. I mean, most of my experience has been Mission Impossible, so it's like, I have a very...
So how many movies have you done?
I've done...
Mission Impossible, you've done 3 or 2? Or?
I've done Fallout, and I'm doing the current one.
Okay.
And then I work on the sequel to Top Gun, and I worked on The Mummy and American Made.
So you're really in there with Tom Cruise then, aren't you?
Yeah.
Because all those films are Tom Cruise's movies.
Yeah, like...
So he's... I suppose that makes sense though, because if he's got a good camera crew that he's happy with...
He usually reuses the same people.
Yeah, that would make sense. You reuse and you build a relationship, and everybody's professional, they know what they need to do, and they all have drinks and champagne at the end.
Yep.
That kind of thing. Okay. So, you were telling me about Tom Cruise's personality. Do you want to reiterate that?
Yeah. Generally speaking, like, outside of work, he's a genuinely nice person. Like, when you're on set, like, you know, like, you always see him in the press, like, always just saying hello to people, like, kissing babies and things, like, you know, like, a very public figure. He's genuinely like that. He can, I mean, like, you know, people look at the article where he's like seen or heard yelling at the staff for like social distancing and stuff, and honestly, it's like that's the angriest I've seen him ever, really, just because it's like, you know, it's a safety thing. Nobody in our industry, TV or movies, is really working right now. Like that's why, like, everybody that has a job is pretty much either on mission or on like one of 4 other movies.
Yeah, so he doesn't need his movie shut down because people aren't doing what they're meant to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So
like,
everybody should be happy they got a job and they're able to work now.
Yeah,
if
that's
taking a piss, we're gonna have a problem.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying, really. When you think about it, he's saying, what?
Yeah, because it's like, you know, the paychecks on some of these people is insane. The paychecks that we get paid, like, sometimes, like, when you look at it head of a department, like, it doesn't add up sometimes. But like for them to be paid that much and then not
comply with basic rules.
Yeah, like, you're putting not just your job at risk, but you're putting 400 other jobs at risk.
Yeah. So,
you know, to me, it's like, I listen to that article and I'm like, I'm in agreement. I comply.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, he's just very. Everybody uses the word intense. It's true. It is intense, but like he means well. Like, all you got to do is stay focused.
I heard one time, I was watching a documentary and they were saying how some people get star-stricken, and so when they come on the set, they just stare eerily at the famous person, and you have to make sure those people aren't allowed on set. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like eerie. It's like this person. If you notice them watching you, it's like, okay, you've look away now, but they don't realize they're doing it. It's like.
Yeah, it is. It sometimes can be one of those things. Like, you know, I feel like at this point he's very used to it. Like,
yeah.
He's very laser focused anyway. He'll just like go straight for it. Like, he only hires people that are focused on the work anyway. Yeah. So it's like it.
So he has a decision on everything, really.
I don't know how far it extends, but as far as Mission Impossible, like, it's his brain. It's like his baby. He's the executive producer, so he touches everything.
So he's an star actor and producer.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. He's done well for himself. Okay. So, going back to yourself, Where do you see yourself going? Do you see this as a lifetime career?
I'd like to keep it as a lifetime career, but in all honesty, like for me, it's more so if I just get to hold a camera the rest of my life. Like no matter what it is, like I'll do it. But generally back home, like I still do video. I do like short independent things with people around Harlem and the Bronx. I'm New York born and raised.
Okay.
And then
you're soft spoken for a New York person. Usually, you kind of picture them as more
very hard.
Face. Yeah.
Yeah, like our aesthetic is gritty. Like getting an argument with me, like I'll get loud, but like there's no reason to telegraph that kind of presence.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays,
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay. What would be your advice to somebody who wanted to get into the film business?
Anybody looking to get into the film business, I mean, honestly, I went to school for it. You don't need to go to school for it. I can say that right now. YouTube is one of your best friends. Just you find a good channel and they will explain everything to you. The one thing I would definitely pass on to somebody like around the age of 18, learn the business side, because you're gonna learn how to use a camera anyway just by doing the work. You're gonna learn how to set up lights just by doing the work. But like learning the business side, like writing up a contract, what does a press release do, like stuff like that. Like those are things that they don't teach you in school. You have to learn that on your own. So I would say like you need definitely do the reading.
Do you know why they don't teach you that in school?
At least in America, I think it's just because people are so focused on the technical aspects of becoming a photographer. People are so focused on becoming a photographer, they forget to teach what becoming a photographer entails, aside from just taking a picture or shooting a video.
What's it like? What kind of equipment? I hear about a camera called Red.
Yeah.
What kind of equipment would you suggest somebody uses? As a starter, as a professional, as an amateur?
See, as an amateur, or as just like as somebody just starting out like me, like I still use my Sony A7S II, which came out like 2012, 2014. And it's like it shoots 4K video. It's the only camera I've ever used really since to shoot like independent stuff. When you can afford it.
Is that a shoulder camera?
It's think of it like a little like a mirrorless camera, like a DSLR, something that you see. It's a little bit smaller than a Canon, but it's generally speaking the same size. But yeah, like in terms of camera work, like if you're gonna start out, I recommend if you're gonna do video mostly, Sony. If you're gonna shoot photography, everybody uses Canon. There's nothing wrong with Canon. I use Fuji. Like it's all up to personal preference. But in terms of like getting the most bang for your buck, Sony, just because you can do both efficiently.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Last two questions. First question is, if you could do any job in the world without money being a factor, so whatever you're getting now, you'll be still getting.
Gotcha.
What job would you do?
I'd still be doing this.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd still be doing this. If anything, it would be nice to like write and produce my own feature, but I'm perfectly happy just mostly as a photographer. That's what I specialize in back home, is stills photography. So I'd probably just without money being a factor, put on the most expensive shoot I can. Probably not the most expensive, but get the most bang for my buck with creativity and aesthetic, and then just publish it as a book or a magazine.
I understand. That is actually a bit of a trick question. The original question was, would you do it all again? But I found somebody actually asked me that question when they was asking me questions.
Yeah.
And it made me think, and I realised you actually get the truth out of the person, because like you really love what you do.
Yeah.
But then someone I interviewed yesterday, they said they'd do something. They'd be play a guitar or something.
Yeah.
And I pointed out to him, he's not really doing what he loves, then, is he? And he said, that's a good point. But
Yeah.
before that, and it made him reflect on himself and what he's really doing in life. All right, the last question is, and it's been a great interview, by the way.
Thank you.
What's the impact you want to have on the world?
Ooh, okay. Especially with everything, the state of the United States. Like, for me, first, I want to be able to change the way Black people or people of color in general perceive the United States internationally, because everybody just thinks that we're gun-toting psychopaths, and you're not.
Okay, go on.
While you're not far from the truth, like the places like New York, California, Florida, places like Colorado, like there's still positivity that can be offered in those neighborhoods, those states. Like, you can always go down to Atlanta and feel at home. Like, you can, like, if I can write a story that would not only change the way that they view these places, but change the way that they perceive themselves if they ever decided to live in these places, like, they won't think that automatically they're going to become an American gangster, or automatically that you're going to become a rock star, or that you have to cut somebody else down in order to succeed, because it's not the case. It's the case if you choose to believe it's the case.
That raises I know I said there's the last two questions. It raises an interesting point, because you point out obviously about the Black international community. You are the only culture in the Western world which is allowed to have guns, like the way you do. So that's probably why we get that impression that thing. Do you own a gun?
No, me personally, no.
Your father probably has a gun.
Yeah,
next.
But he also had the professions that made it necessary.
But afterwards, now he's still got a gun.
Yeah, he's...
Okay, all right. You spoke about Africa.
Mm-hmm.
What was your experience like for Africa? Because I know a lot of Americans don't travel.
Yeah.
So from an American point of view, what was it like? What country did you go to in Africa?
I went to the city of Swakopmund in Namibia, and I would, if I was allowed to get a citizenship there, I would, because it's one of the most beautiful places I'd ever seen.
Is that the one with the mud mosque? Mud mosque? Was that an MI film you were doing then?
The Mud Mosque? I don't think so. No. It was I went there when we were filming The Mummy.
Okay.
And it's like, it has the oldest desert in the world, the desert of Namib, and it has like what is it? Rawsing Mountain. It's like a uranium mine. It's one of the second largest mountains in the country.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a very coastal city that I was staying. It was I still keep up with most of the people that I met there. Like, I went around to like pretty much every restaurant, or I went into every storefront at some point while I was there. Yeah. And like, the people are just lovely. Like, they just love to talk. They don't care who you are. Like,
was you there for long?
I was there for about 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah. Literally, like, it's so chilled out there. I went into a bar, had a beer with the president, didn't even know he was the president.
Okay.
Like, it's just, like, he doesn't walk around with Secret Service. He doesn't need to.
But you know what it is, and this is what I say: a good president doesn't need security.
Yeah.
Because he pleases the people.
That's a good point.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
If you need security, the more security you need, the more it shows what you're doing wrong.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
That is a good point.
And that goes for international and national.
Gotcha.
Because this is where, not to bash America, but I have concerns where your foreign policy creates terrorists. If you have a bad foreign policy in that respect. And Britain, obviously, we're a very we're a country who's got a history of doing that. Bad foreign policy. We're getting better.
Yeah.
That we still underline, big business and what have you. and colonial mentality,
Yeah.
colonialistic, I should say, is been there. But still, it's been great talking to you.
Yeah, it's
We're
been an
coming to
absolute pleasure.
the end of the journey, and we wish you well on your films.
Thank you.
And your future.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
We hope you liked that interview. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to get the latest daily episode. Ever considered investing in the continent with the fastest growing economy and population on Earth? The same continent that holds 30% of the world's known natural resources? Then listen to our sister podcast, Africa Investor Stories, where you will hear real investors with real stories from around the world share their experience of investing in Africa. We post Monday and Thursday at 10 a.m.